Hello, everybody. Welcome along to another episode of the Championship Check-In podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and EFL pundit extraordinaire, Sam Parkin. Sam, it is all going off. We're 11 games to go now. We're in the middle of a 3-game week. We're recording on Monday. It's closer at the top. It's absurd at the bottom. Are you looking forward to chatting to me for the next 45 minutes, hour or so?
Wasn't it? Almost felt like it was a little bit unusual having a Sunday without a game, but probably much needed after me and yourself. I was going to say made a little bit of a hash of our predictions, but it's quite difficult to even, with my blue and white hooped blood, to suggest that QPR are going to go away to Leicester and win. My eldest was proudly sporting a QPR retro shirt when we went for a coffee at the crack of dawn yesterday. So he was wowed by the masterclass.
You love to see it. We're going to go straight to Parkin's pick, and Sam is going to be picking from I'm just running out of superlatives now. We said blockbuster set of results last week. Equally so this week. West Brom 2, Coventry 1 on Friday night. Bristol City 0, Cardiff 1 in one of the early kickoffs, and the Leeds winning streak is over. Huddersfield 1, Leeds 1 in the 12:30 on Saturday. I should probably say this one last because it was the last goal that went in. But Birmingham 3, Southampton 4. Big goal by Joe Aribo at the end of that one. Leicester 1, QPR 2. I'm sure that's going to come up, so I'll say no more. Millwall 1, Watford 0. Millwall back-to-back wins under Neil Harris, but it doesn't get them any closer to survival in this ridiculous race. Norwich 1, Sunderland 0. The main man Sargent at it again. Plymouth 0, Ipswich 2. Significant one up at the top. Preston 0, Hull 0 in our little pre-playoff thing between Preston, Hull, West Brom and Coventry. We've been playing each other. Rotherham 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. So not only have QPR won 3 in a row, Sheffield Wednesday have also won 3 in a row, but bouncing back comes Stoke. Stoke 2, Middlesbrough 0. And it was Swansea 2, Blackburn 1. And all of a sudden, some of the teams we thought were home and hosed and safe with enough points maybe are in a little bit of bother, which might set you up nicely, Sam, as we go to Parkin's pick. Are you going to the top or are you going to the bottom, Sam?
Oh, we're going to look at the bottom of the table, the foot of the table, who's in danger, who's going to survive, and more pertinently, how many points is it going to take to stay in a division? And for that reason, I'm very thankful that I do a podcast with Goodwill Hunting.
Interesting.
That's you, mate.
I'm Goodwill Hunting, am I?
You're good. You're the one that's going to do the algebra, mate, aren't you?
All the maths. Is that not Rain Man rather than Goodwill Hunting? Bit of both.
Isn't it algebra? Long arithmetic? Have I got it muddled up? I don't know.
We're getting is that a 90s movie? Getting our 80s, 90s film references. So, Sam, I said last week when 4 of the bottom 6 won, and I think it was like 7 of the bottom 10 or something ridiculous. This never happens. Well, I was talking complete nonsense because literally the next week, if you have a look over at the form guide, again, wins 4, and apologies in advance. We always do this. Apologies to Rotherham fans. You're too far back. We're not including you in the conversation. I'm sorry. Wednesday 1 in 23rd. Stoke 1 in 22nd. Go up a couple of places. Huddersfield had a heroic draw against Leeds, and it does very little for them. Birmingham's late defeat seems significant now. QPR 1 again. Blackburn 1. Millwall 1 again against Watford. And all of a sudden, you now see Blackburn on 39 points and Plymouth on 40, who we've said are safe for weeks, right on the edges of it. And then you look at Swansea's back-to-back wins, Sam. If Swansea had scored 0 points in those 2 games, they'd be on 36 and they'd be in the relegation zone. Look, there's a lot to talk about, but first, just give me a hell yeah for Sheffield Wednesday and QPR. What form those 2 are in.
It's just incredible, all of it. I mean, I text my brother. He'd not been at the game, but I think everyone's immediate reaction at the weekend is like, oh, I can't believe they won as well. Or I can't believe everyone below us won. Do you know what I mean? That would have been the reaction up and down the country from these teams involved in the battle. Yeah, I suppose, if we deal with QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, firstly, that's the reason, isn't it? That all these teams that were probably relatively comfortable, thinking that they could plan for next season, are all of a sudden in the mire. So QPR, my thinking there, I think it's the manager, the impact of him, clearly. I think it's quite pertinent that they're playing West Brom on Wednesday evening. It was probably one of my lowest moments in recent times following QPR being at the Hawthorns for the 2-0 defeat early part of this season, where they had one shot. And Jimmy Dunn was sent off in that game, but they hadn't had a shot before Jimmy Dunn was sent off. It was a blocked shot. And I just came away from it thinking it's League One. It's League One next season for Rangers. So this has been an incredible turnaround. Ingredients to it, the new manager, his coaching methods, improving the players, Ben. And Jimmy Dunn that I mentioned there, to give him the nod in some big games at right back, I think shows you what he's doing with the individuals. Lyndon Dykes as well. I mean, these are the two guys that I probably criticise the most, Dunn and Lyndon Dykes. So to get the improvement in those two guys in particular, that's really evident how much of an impact the manager's had. Reintroducing probably the flair players, Chair and Willock. We knew it was in them. Could someone get it out of them again at a consistent level? I think he's doing that. And the ability, and I think you can put Sheffield Wednesday side by side here. And I won't talk about Danny Rowe. I've done that enough in the last few weeks. But my sentiment is exactly the same with him. But I think the opportunity and the want and the ability to go and improve in January with some signings. And I think that's a big part of this QPR improvement, the depth across all the positions now, when they were having to play young kids who I didn't think were up to it early part of the season. That's the honest truth. Not championship kind of level players were filling that 11 for QPR. So for QPR to improve, but also Sheffield Wednesday to go and get Poveda and Ugbo in particular, those two. The shape seems more consistent now with Wednesday as well, kind of wing backs, but I think there's probably a little bit more strength there for probably Barry Bannon to be a little bit deeper and to orchestrate things and not have to maybe be pulled out of position too often. So it seems to be suiting him, who is clearly Sheffield Wednesday's best player, best operator. So I think Poveda and Ugbo have done for Sheffield Wednesday what those 3 or 4 signings have done for QPR as well.
Let me just bring the table back up, Sam. I want to talk about Millwall just briefly, because we both predicted Millwall are going to go and beat Watford. Stoke were the other winners. On Millwall, is there almost, and I don't want to rain on Millwall's parade because it's a great story with Harris, is there almost a danger you get the new manager bounce, regress to the mean, and you're still in trouble, having put 6 points on the board? And if you can run that into Sam as well, what a big win for Stoke. I know Middlesbrough are really flaky at the moment, but my God, that's a Sam Parkin must-win game if ever I saw one.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I was trying to kind of sum up what's been happening to Southampton in the last 2 or 3 weeks on the radio on Saturday afternoon. And there's always that kind of cliche, has the run come too early? Mm-hmm. And for Millwall, has that managerial bounce come too early when you consider what's going on at the bottom of the division? I think possibly, but I still feel that Neil Harris will be much better suited to probably Joe Edwards in accruing the amount of points to keep them in the division. I don't think anything changed, and they'll play a lot better than they did on Saturday. I don't think it was great by any means, but I mean, in the last 12 games, only Blackburn have taken fewer points than Watford. And I know our cause for concern is going to be reserved for someone in the higher echelons of the division, but there's a few teams that are in horrendous form towards the middle of the table. Middlesbrough, Bristol City, 3 straight defeats now. Sunderland, 4 straight defeats, I think. And Watford, 10 points won in that time. So that was an optimum opportunity for Millwall to go and win the game, and they did so. I think Millwall, because of that change and because of the last couple of results, clearly as we sit here today, they're not one of the ones I'm most worried about.
No.
But Birmingham as well. I mean, the home form at St Andrews, I think they haven't lost at home since Boxing Day. So the form there is good. And I think there's enough winnable games with the way that they're going about things now to still have a little bit of optimism. Yet this week is tough for them. Having said that, I think they go to Hull and I think they go to Millwall. So after the next 7 days, this conversation could be even more worrying for the Blue Noses. But I just feel that form at St Andrews and the games that they've got remaining, I wouldn't be too concerned about them now. I'm concerned about all of them. Obviously, you're worried about all the teams down there, but I just think, that's reason for optimism. The one negative, of course, and is not having Tony Mowbray, because you think with him at the helm, there'd be a great opportunity of them getting a bit of momentum and a little bit of form. So for them, in isolation, that's such a shame for them.
Let's do the, what did you call it? Long division and algebra now. So the reason why I didn't sneer when Sam mentioned Sunderland is because of what we're about to say in terms of the sort of amount of points that might be needed. And we've got to say this right now, Sam, if the current trends continue, because we know these teams are at the bottom for a reason and it could come to a standstill. And I know I said it last week. We can't just have the bottom half all winning, the people in the middle of the table not winning at all, and then the people at the top winning. It just doesn't make any sense at all. But hey, this is the Championship. So generally, Sam, I've done the maths this morning. The last 10 teams to get relegated in 22nd place averaged 42.9. So call that 43 points. And we'll say 43 points has not been enough to keep you up on average over the last 10 years. And we do have to caveat all this, Sam. There's been points deductions and there's been a couple of COVID seasons, which have, you can say the figures are a bit funky because of that. The last 10 teams to survive or be in 21st place. So the sort of, minimum points to stay up had been an average of 46. Now, what I always like to do, Sam, is bring them together in the middle. So if you've got 43 and 46, bring them both in one, and you can say 44 probably takes you down, 45 probably keeps you up. But look at that this season. The projections at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously the projection, unfortunately for them, takes into account like 0 points in the first 12 games or something, would land on 46 points and get relegated, which would be ridiculous and might not happen because they might even get more than that given how they're going at the moment. Next up, you've got Stoke and Huddersfield and QPR are all projecting 49.9. Call that 50. That basically sets the total, Sam. You need 50 to survive, don't you, basically? Birmingham are projecting 51.4 because they've got a game in hand on everybody else. Blackburn and Millwall, sorry, I should have done them first, 51.25. So ridiculously, Sam, you've almost got a case for it being 5 points. I don't know what that is as a percentage, 45 up to 50, 5 points higher than it normally is. Do you see things maintaining with this high tide and with there's so many teams involved? I think I can see it being a crazy high total and someone being very unlucky, like Charlton were. I've got it down here. Charlton got relegated with 48 the year Wigan had the 12-point deduction. Blackburn went down in 2017 with 51. You see something like that happening?
I think so. I'm reluctant to completely show my hand because a few weeks ago we had it as a four-team race for survival. So I am a little bit reluctant. I think they may plateau a little. Maybe, some of the teams that have been really consistent. It's just like Sheffield Wednesday have drawn 1 in 17. So it just shows you that points that they may prove to be fruitful right at the death, if we're talking about it being neck and neck as we approach the last couple of games. But at the moment, it doesn't matter if you don't turn up the odd week, as long as you're able to churn out those victories. at home, or win one every 3 games or whatever.
Exactly.
So,
I was just going to say that 1 win in 3, and you're at the point per game, aren't you?
Yeah. So no, I would probably side with it, being a real high points total to survive. So maybe towards that 50 mark you just spoke of. The one team I did want to flag, because I was looking for, the sides that are in trouble, the sides that are on a slippery slope, if you like. And when I looked at the form guides over a different amount of games, the team that keep coming back to me is Argyle. And I've been, reluctant to do this really, because I think, recently they've had, incredibly tricky games. They've had a change of manager. They've lost, obviously, Kundal, Azaz, the manager. But I think the supporters there must be concerned, especially with Sheffield Wednesday on the horizon this week. And 29 goals, I think, Whittaker and Hardy have supplied. I think the top next goal scorer in that squad at the moment is on 3 goals. So there's a complete over-reliance. And I think that's been their strength in me continually backing them for survival. But I think it is a worry the way that they're not creating opportunities. And I don't think they created much. I'm sure you saw more of the game than me, but I don't think they created a great deal against Ipswich. In their defence, or to back them a little bit, the games are not bad. I think there's 7 games against lower half opposition. They play Leicester, if memory serves me right, at home park, and they play Hull City at home park. Other than that, there's not too much to get overly concerned about. So a bit like Birmingham, I think the fixtures may be kind enough for them to gain enough points to stay in the division, but they are certainly 100% in it.
Crazy. Yeah, just to round this out, the crazy thing is what I call abject form, Sam, is 0.5 points per game. So if you, for example, gave Watford all the way up in 12th abject form, so they score 5.5. I know you can't score 5.5 in the remaining. Sorry, no, it's 11 games. They're under 50 points, and we've just said that might be the magic number, which is why. Okay, maybe Cardiff and Sunderland, you'd be looking at them literally scoring 1 or 2 points for the rest of the season. That would be what it might take to drag them into it. I think you've kind of shown your hand a little bit. The one team higher up you're worried about. Is there one team, say, out of Wednesday, Stoke, Huddersfield, Birmingham down there that you're kind of confident about? Would it be Wednesday?
Oh, that is a really tricky question. Really tricky question. I mean, if you're sitting here this morning, a Stoke City fan, you'd be really pleased with the weekend. I thought there was some real positives for them. I thought the midfield, I thought the nature of the performance, much more front-footed, aggressive, a little bit maybe more direct into Ellis played down the middle, didn't he? And I think they got a little bit of joy with that front 3 as well. I'm not sure how often that's been the kind of permutations, the midfield selection and the front players as well. And after having such a horrific run at home, to get back-to-back wins, and they're playing in kind of low margin games all of a sudden. Stoke, there's not an abundance of goals in their games, which was probably a bit of a necessity to make them a little bit less risk adverse, possibly. So I don't know. I'm kind of scrambling around. I'm not confident about any of them.
Well, and Sam, sorry to interrupt. There's the chance with these teams that they can go and score 1 point in 5 games, which at the moment, with what everyone else is doing, would absolutely kill you, wouldn't it? So I know where you're going with it.
I'd probably say Millwall, maybe. I'd probably say I'm most confident about Millwall getting out of it after making that change, and that's purely. It's not sentiment. It's based on the timing, and it's based on probably the affection probably between manager and players. A lot of those that remain, and probably the ability to have 5 or 6 games back to back with that feeling now, which should give them enough of a cushion.
Wow. Just Incredible stuff down at the bottom of the table. We'll clip this one out again. We've got a series of these now, Sam, of us contradicting ourselves just as things change, just completely rapidly in the Championship. But as ever, get your comments in on how you see it shaping up. And
hey, just finally, Blackburn, 8 points, last 12 games, the worst in a division. They didn't even get a mention there.
And if you do that in the next 12 games, yeah, quite. So do what Sam did, by the way, in the comments. Give me one team you're worried about, who's higher up, who you could see falling, and give me one team who's lower down, who you can see going up a couple of 3 places, which is entirely plausible given there's 2 points between about 17 teams at the moment. Anyway, I need to calm myself down, Sam, and hear you talk about some lovely goals. Lovely goal, in the words of Barry Davis. It's time for Worldie of the Week. I'm giving it about a 4 out of 10 on the Worldie worldometer, the Parkin meter for goals this week. Not great, was it, Sam? What did you like?
Well, there's one standout goal I would say. We liked in unison, definitely Brooks, I think, for Southampton. Looked like an amazing game. He's had some great moments, hasn't he, in the last few weeks? That's for sure. He's a player you can't not like. I'm not going to go into the backstory, but it's been an incredible, obviously, return to form for him after what he's been through. But I just think his guile, his balance, the way he plays the game, you can't not enjoy a player like that. So that was a wonderful goal. Lovely curling effort. Brilliant. Armstrong, both QPR goals, actually, for different reasons. Obviously, the chair goal was a wonderful team move, really well crafted. But Armstrong coming on and smashing that one in.
Especially after post that Watford game, Sam, where he missed all those chances. And, we were hoping he'd get back to it.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest, parts of his game that he needs to show improvement in if he's going to become a regular feature at that level, and also, fulfill the clear potential he's got would be to become more clinical. So, Les Ferdinand finished that way every time he was in front of the goalkeeper. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just putting your foot through it. Every time Ferdinand went one-on-one, there was nothing cute. There was no guile about it. He just smashed the ball towards the goal, either side of the keeper. So that was a great finish. Smodix was a really nice one, actually, beautifully guided in. And when we do
lovely
the Blackburn,
angle, Sam.
Yeah, and when we do the Blackburn chat next week, if they continue to struggle, Smodix consistently has been someone I've pointed to, such a massive part of their survival hope, their hopes of winning games. So he continues to flourish. Anyway, I digress. The winner, quite clearly, would be Mikey Johnston of West Brom with a brilliant goal on Friday night against Cov.
What do you call that when a football player, so they're kind of still, they put the nutmeg in, and then when they've done the nutmeg, something happens in a football player's brain where it's like, I've just nutmegged this guy now. The only thing I can possibly do is keep on dribbling and have a shot because, do you know what I mean? The biorhythms get going in the brain. What is that? That dopamine spike?
It's probably more the awareness that you're in the box now, or you're on the cusp of getting towards the 18-yard box, and the angle's almost there, isn't it, to get your strike away?
You're in the zone, aren't you, after that nutmeg?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, you're talking about like that, the feeling, the adrenaline, I suppose. It was funny on Sky, they kind of flagged up the goal at our goal, 2 weeks ago. It's very, very similar goal. I don't know if I had it the other way. They thought that the Argyle one was a better goal. I thought that on Friday was a much better goal. I thought the finish obviously got whipped right in the top corner. I thought it was an amazing goal. So that was a very Carlos Corberán performance on Friday night, even though Coventry, who we'll come on to, had quite a number of opportunities in the second half chances. You always felt West Brom were going to get the points after the first one went in there, so in command. Didn't have an abundance of chances on goal. Scored 2 really good ones, and then just know how to manage the game better than any team maybe in in the division outside the top 2 or 3. So, I thought it was a brilliant goal, and he's been I know they're struggling for a centre forward at the moment, but just to freshen up those front positions, I thought was necessary in January, and that strength now that they've got in those departments with Vyman and Johnston and the
Sam,
young lad.
I think the fact that he's inverted them and he's got fellows going narrow from the right and Johnston says, I don't have much in the way of strikers. I want these guys narrow in the box and shooting, right? Yeah,
and the second goal was a brilliant assist, wasn't it, from Fellows? I think did he put it in with his left foot? I'm not sure, but
it was right. Did he? I can't.
Was
remember.
It his right foot? Yeah, it was lovely.
I don't know, Sam. I don't know actually.
I think it was right foot. I watched it last night. It was a lovely trajectory anyway, but Coventry didn't defend it well at all. But he's really come to the fore as well, Fellows. But in terms of the goals we saw this week, I thought Johnston's was far and away the best one, and no surprise really when I have read the odd bit on him. It seems that quite a few Celtic fans are saying, couldn't we give him a little bit more of an opportunity? So 100% West Brom's gain, and I expect a couple more of that ilk to probably go flying in the net this season as well.
Let's go to cause for concern. So you've probably realised we're 25 minutes into this podcast and we haven't mentioned the title race, Sam. Who is this week's cause for concern?
Maybe that's because I'm not overly concerned, mate. Well, we're going to talk Leicester. I think we got 3 defeats on the spin, eh?
Just insanity at the top of the table. It was one of those, I said on the Blue Monday podcast, Sam, yesterday, it felt like one of those final day of the seasons where you're tracking all the results and chronologically as they're going in. So obviously we had Leeds, and I mean, it says a lot about the standard that a team who's won 9 games on the trot draws an away game at a local rival. And that's some kind of fallibility for a day. Do you know what I mean? That says a lot. So they drew, and the brilliant winning streak of Leeds ended, which also then gave Ipswich the chance to overtake Leeds, Southampton to catch up, and obviously Leicester to go further ahead. Then at half-time, both Leicester and Southampton are losing. So if you've got your Ipswich hat on, you're like, oh my God, this could work out absolutely perfectly. QPR, as Sam's mentioned in the first segment of this show, did the business at Leicester. Ipswich get a couple of goals at Plymouth. And you're thinking, this is really shaking up. But what adds a little extra salt on is the late goal from Southampton means that you have the top 2, Sam, dropping points. You have the 2 chasers there, well, Ipswich were a chaser and went from 3rd to 2nd, Southampton closing up. But we're speaking about Leicester, and they've been brilliant. They've been miles clear all season. But all of a sudden, their lead is only 3 points, 5 points back to Leeds, who are obviously very powerful squad and team. Okay, 8 points back to Southampton, but Southampton do have a game to play directly against Leicester. So that's in somewhat more in their hands than otherwise. We're not going to be in a crazy situation where Leicester, who we've thought for months are going to be champions, are not going to finish first.
It's still hard for me to fathom that, considering I sat in the front room and for 70 minutes thought they were so good against Leeds, last Friday. And even when QPR were 2 goals to the good, I think partly because I had 3-2 Leicester in my predictions, I felt this would be so typically QPR if it ends up 3-2 or 4-2 to the home side. And I didn't for any minute really, obviously I wasn't at the game, but for any minute did I really think QPR were going to hang on for 3 points. Do I think there's loads wrong at Leicester? No, I don't really.
One of your favourites, Sam, Ricardo, is going to be out for the rest of this 3-game week, and then it's going to be back the other side of the international break. Wilfred Ndidi is nearly back, but they've missed him as well, haven't they?
100%. And going into the weekend, I almost felt they're probably just getting over the hardest point in the season in terms of having Vardy out and Iheanacho not available, and Ndidi. And then all of a sudden, Vestergaard is suspended for a couple. And obviously the young lad comes in, Nelson, and scores. You can question whether at this stage of the season, with so much on the line, Connor Cody could have been utilised for the second time in a week. But you could probably say that about a lot of the guys who got an opportunity at Bournemouth, and by all accounts, from what I've seen and what I've read, they won and dominated quite large portions of that game against Premier League opposition. So that's probably partly why I don't think there's huge amounts to worry about. If you're a fan of the old XG as well, these 3 games that they've been defeated in, they've had higher XG than the opposition. I suppose you can look at the front players and say that they're not getting goals from the centre forward at the moment, and also those wide,
just not in the squad, not injured, just not in the squad this past week.
And those wide players who have been so fruitful, I thought Mabadidi kept going the other day, but him and Fatu are clearly not on their game as they have been. So I suppose that's fair. Just trying to think of other ingredients that are maybe.
Can I give you an ingredient, Sam?
Go on.
4 away games now in a row. They played at home at the weekend, and then the 3-game week goes Sunderland away, Hull away. Then they were due to play that game we just mentioned against Southampton on TV on the Friday night. But of course, they won in the FA Cup, which takes out a home game and adds an away game. And then you've got Bristol City away on the other side of that. Also, Sam, tell me how you feel about this. Looking at the calendar, I'm going to assume, rightly or wrongly, I'm going to assume Chelsea will beat Leicester in the FA Cup, and they won't reach the semi-final, because that would be absolute carnage for the end of Leicester season. They'd literally be going 3-game weeks all the way through. But it doesn't seem like the Southampton game can go in until after round 43, which, if I flip the page here, would be 46, 45, 43. So potentially you've got West Brom, Preston, and at some point Southampton in the last 4 games of your running as well. Extra ingredient for you?
Yeah, and I think it's too early for me to be doing my totting up on points. I normally reserve that for the last 6 or 7 games of the season. But I think, last week when we spoke, no doubt in my mind that Leicester and Southampton have the tougher run-ins, I think, than Leeds and Ipswich. Certainly the next, half a dozen games, I think that was my sentiment anyway. Southampton, we know, have got to play those aforementioned 3. And for Leicester, that's why, exactly what you just said there, looking at the next few games was exactly why I thought it was imperative that they took care of business against QPR. Having not done that, they've got some increasingly difficult games over the next fortnight where they need to respond. This next game becomes really big for them. The other thing I wanted to mention, obviously not perfect, not having Ndidi and Vardy, losing Cassidy in January as well, and seeing how their midfield's lining up now, especially without Ricardo. And especially
Dennis Pratt's not around either, is he?
No, I just think they're a bit light there. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In retrospect, would they have maybe brought in 1 or 2 maybe in the window? And I think they were in for someone. Sorry, the name escapes me. It's not in front of me now, but they were in for someone and they couldn't get him over the line. And I'm just thinking that is a bit of a problem at the moment. And I think they missed Vestergaard. He was in my team of the half season at the weekend. And I didn't think either defender covered themselves in glory, centre halves for the first goal. So I'm not overly concerned. I think it would take a real, unless the fans listening to this would probably say they were absolutely abject at the weekend. But let's give credit to QPR, who are much improved. And they caught them on a day where their kind of deep defensive line and their counter-attacking football was really fruitful.
They're still projecting 102 points, Sam. So I think we are now out of points record territory, aren't we? They need to now go on a big winning streak if they're going to win at a canter. But I'm almost thinking if you I put the table up here, you can make pretty good arguments, definitely for Ipswich and Leeds to be in the mid-90s, the way this is kind of shaking out. But I do kind of agree. We need to see the Leicester projection come down at least below 100 for that to be a conversation. Talk to me about the 3 chasing them briefly after we've majored on Leicester this week, Sam.
It's a bit of a blur, mate, in my mind. St Andrews, then Southampton, wasn't it?
And a late winner.
Yeah, Russell Martin was pretty complimentary about Birmingham. So I think they were really tested in that game. Obviously, Armstrong coming back in. We spoke about him last week, and Russell Martin spoke about probably a little bit of regret taking him out of the side, maybe to give him a little bit of a rest.
Armstrong.
And Adam Armstrong.
Adam Armstrong, sorry.
Yeah, just and it obviously he scored. I think it was the equaliser, was it not? So it certainly scored in the first half. Ipswich, tricky game, obviously, but I think, partly down to the form and the confidence that Kieran McKenna has got back in. But I think Argyle are just caught between maybe the Stephen Schumacher way and Ian Foster way at the moment. Probably not as risk-taking, maybe similar conversation to Stoke. Just flipped a little bit. I think there may be just a little bit more conservative and probably just expecting Whittaker and Hardy to get them out of any mire that they may be in. And that's not always easy. I think they were so front-footed and so free-scoring when they had Azaz as well and Kundal at times bombing forward. I think the balance is just a little bit off there, and it's probably due to the amount of change, but not to take anything away from a brilliant Ipswich win. I really enjoyed Al Hamady running back from the bog to get involved in the Connor Chaplin goal celebration. I'm sure that's what he was back in the dressing room anyway. Maybe he was changing his attire or getting a drink or something, but he certainly joined those celebrations blind, which I enjoyed. And Leeds, well, I don't want to say I told you so, mate, but
well, we'll get to that in the predictions show, won't we?
Yeah, I smelt it, and I did text you after about half an hour and said it stinks of a draw this when Huddersfield were a goal to the good. And
Huddersfield were very aggressive, weren't they?
Yeah, and Jonathan Hogg had, I think, been sent off at the time I text you, but no surprise, Hellick getting another goal. But Leeds, they laid siege, didn't they? I just felt with the added kind of impetus of the new manager, the crowd, the way it would be, I thought it was a really tough game for Leeds, and they were at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday night. Let's not forget. So, despite having a numerical advantage, they would have been fatigued, and sometimes that's the way it goes. Although when Somerville cut in on his right foot, I thought,
hit the post.
I thought that was probably going to be it, and they were going to get away with obviously a little bit of an indifferent performance, but with the maximum points. So. It was going to happen, and no surprise to me, really, that it happened in a derby match.
There you go. Get your thoughts in. Again, we'll clip this one out as a top of the table chat. Get your thoughts in. If you're feeling really brave, give us your 1, 2, 3, 4, and directly answer that question for us, as we've just made, Sam. Are Leicester in danger of throwing away the Championship title? Let's look ahead, Sam, at So we're in a 3-game week. We're going to look at the mid-week fixtures for our mouthwatering matchup. And because so many of you commented, we are going to get Sam Parkin back here later in the week. And it is double predictions this week. Although I think he's motivated by the fact that he's just catching me up and he wants to get as many rounds in the predictions as possible. So, Sam, I need a mouthwatering matchup from this midweek round 36. 7 games on... Tuesday night. Why have they done that? Because Leeds are playing Sheffield Wednesday on Friday, isn't it? So it's Blackburn, Millwall, Coventry, Rotherham, Hull, Birmingham, Leeds, Stoke, Wednesday, Plymouth, Sunderland, Leicester, and I will be watching along on the TV on the YouTube channel with Ipswich versus Bristol City. Come and join me for that. It is on Wednesday, then, just a 5-game night. Cardiff, Huddersfield, Borough, Norwich, Southampton, Preston, Watford, Swansea, and QPR versus West Bromwich Albion. And Sam, I'm coming right to you in 2 ticks for your mouth-watering matchup. Feels like a bit of a split, Sam. Not many head-to-heads, more teams from different segments in the table going against teams from other different segments. But what would you like to talk about for midweek?
Yeah, every game week, if I'm allowed to go for that new bit of terminology from the last few years, just feels massive and just feels it's so difficult to predict. Let's go what 8 or 9 miles to the west of me, where I'm sat now,
Hmm.
to the home of football, QPR for West Bromwich Albion.
And Sam, you're going to be there for BBC Radio 5 Live.
Yeah, going to be there on Wednesday. I don't think I've covered too many games at QPR this season, so be an absolute pleasure to see this one. Although, could be defences on top, couldn't it? I think it'll be low margin. I think you're probably talking, no more than 3 goals. I don't think there's going to be loads on either goal. I think Marty Cifuentes, if you look at this latest run of, is it 5 wins in 8 now? Something like that. Anyway, I think they've only conceded multiple goals in one of those games in the draw against Norwich. So I think the improvement defensively has been huge as well. I didn't mention that earlier on. I think Alex Palmer's joint now with Meslier with the most clean sheets in the division. So therefore, I expect it to be pretty tight and probably decided by, it'll either be a draw or decided by 1 goal either way. And touched on it already, QPR were woeful at West Brom. And I think it actually was I don't know if it was the subsequent game, but they lost that last minute game to Leicester, and that was Gareth Ainsworth's last game in charge, if you remember. Harry Winks late on. But West Brom was quite close to that. And I think that was the moment when the QPR fans just lost all faith, really, in Gareth Ainsworth's management. So, it was a really tough night. And obviously, this is the reverse fixture. West Brom are in similar fettle, really. That cushion now. Thought that was a big win on Friday. Carlos Corberán, I think Jed Wallace said after the game that Carlos Corberán had the table up before the game and probably said, right, that's Coventry that far away from us.
Rule them off, 8-point gap, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're not going to catch us now, so we just need to take care of them. Do you know what I mean? So kind of painted it in front of the players. And they got the job done. So be interested to see if he's given a nod again down the middle. I think Cook and Jake Clark-Salter all of a sudden have developed a really good understanding for QPR. But how you deal with that kind of floaty number 9 who doesn't play up against you, who you can't be physical with, I think that's always a really interesting facet of any game. And those two enjoy the physical, enjoy winning their headers, enjoy tackling, and that probably won't be the case if West Brom have got quite a vibrant rotational kind of front setup, which I anticipate them having. So, a few little tactical things that I'm looking forward to, but I think in the main it will be quite a defensive game. I don't think QPR are at the stage now. I don't think any of the teams are at the stage now where they have to go hell for leather to win matches, despite what I said earlier on, because this is a tough one. And I think, West Brom, if they get their noses in front, it's very, very hard to take any points off them. So I think it could be quite cagey for an hour or so, maybe decided late on.
Interesting. We'll check out Sam on 5 Live covering this week's or this midweek's mouth-watering matchup, which is that game on TV as well? Probably isn't it? QPR versus West Brom. Let's move on to our player to watch. So we had a similar conversation, didn't we, about, you mentioned Sinclair Armstrong. This is my suggestion that we talk a bit about Ellis Sims here, because I keep receiving information about Victor Gyökeres, who's completely ripping it up in Portugal at the moment, and giving us quite an idea of what level of player Coventry had there with him and Hamer in the Championship last season. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of what Coventry have done over a number of years, Sam, and I think they did the right thing and they spent and tried to push the advantage of having big transfer fees earned from, great recruitment of Gyökeres and Hamer. But the feedback I've got from Coventry fans, and maybe they're a bit cross after the West Brom game, is that they think Ellis Sims, and I don't want to use the word flop, but let's say hasn't quite delivered to the extent that they wanted him to. What's your take on the Sims sign-in and how he's fitted in at Coventry and how that has impacted what's looking less of a playoff challenge now? Not that they can't get back into it. And would a Sims and Hadji Wright both firing be enough for you to be confident Coventry might get back into that top six?
Yeah, my kind of feeling towards Ellis Sims kind of goes back to watching him play kind of in academy and under 23s football when I first saw him. And I felt like in a very direct team, which Everton were actually in the 23s, you know, unusually so, he was such a nuisance, you know, and they used to hit him from wide and they used to hit him from deep. And maybe that was down to the physicality in comparison to some of the opposition players at that time in his life. But I've kept an eye on him because I thought he was pretty devastating at that level when you play to his strength. So the reason I say that is maybe just stylistically at the moment, it's not a brilliant match. I think they were spoiled almost, the Coventry fans, that they had someone like Gyökeres who was almost like Diego Costa, wasn't he? And I always say about him, like an average ball or a percentage pass forward can be made into a great one if you've got the skill set of one of those two players who can get hold of it and can go past people. They can run behind as well. And Gyökeres did the lot. Why it hasn't translated to what Haji Wright can do, I'm not entirely sure. People may just say he's not as good as Gyökeres. But I think there's the directness there. I think the movement of Haji Wright is quite good, having seen him early part of the season. Maybe his finishing certainly is not at the level of Gyökeres when he left Coventry. But I suppose I'm kind of saying as a two, I think Sims would be better suited to playing with someone who can run behind. I think he's an 18-yard box player, Sims, and I think he's a hold-up player. So yeah, I think he'll do his best work if balls are being played into him or he's pulling around the far post and they're being a little bit more direct. And that's not really the Coventry way. But it must be a head scratcher for Mark Robins, because if you think you've got your two best players essentially at the moment, maybe Palmer and O'Hare, those two can be the ones kind of around the centre forward. They can run behind probably a little bit. They can link with Sims into his feet. So I think it's a bit of a head scratcher as to why it's not worked for either of those strikers brilliantly.
Could you play all of them? Could you have Sims as the 9 and maybe Wright wide and Palmer wide, or O'Hare wide and the other one as the 10? Or is that far too attacking?
It feels like all of them would want to play off the left. That's how that. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Sakamoto injury, I think that was probably what led to the change in the system the other day to a degree. And
Coventry fans were critical of that change in system. They all said that was the wrong shape.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about it a lot, you know, and I think he's been quite groundbreaking. I've said that many a time. That box midfield, kind of in League One, thinking back then, with the back three, brilliantly led by McFadden. I thought the change to the 4-3-3 really suited him this season. And Sakamoto was a big part of that. So, but you want to try and get Palmer and O'Hare into the lineup. So I was quite infused when you see the team. And obviously, for whatever reason, he's made the change at halftime and gone to the front two. And that didn't really work either. But the state of the game by then is West Brom sitting probably 20, 25 yards from their goal and saying, go and break us down. So
they love that, don't they?
Yeah, so therefore the majority of the efforts were speculative ones from 20, 25 yards. And Sims was a little bit wasteful in two situations when he was quite well placed. But, you know, from the off, I don't know how many times they've been partnered in a front two from the outset. But to my mind, there's no reason why that can't work. It should be able to work better than it has done so far this season. And maybe it just take a little bit of time. Two relatively young players who've still got loads of improvement to make and to achieve. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you a little bit. Maybe you'd have to play O'Hare or Palmer in a wide position and just build the rest of your team to probably supply the width on that side and allow them to do their best work in the middle, where they can still kind of saturate the middle of the pitch, which Coventry like to do. So that's probably getting the balance right with your fullback being really attack-minded on the side where one of those players wants to tuck in. But I don't think it's all lost for him, because the way I'm talking there and when I'm playing like the permutations and all that over in my mind, I think, God, they got some good players. They got some good players.
played the long game so well, and I'm sure Coventry fans in the comments will remind us, Gyökeres didn't do anything for 6 months on loan, and then I think was quiet for a season before just exploding with goals. But there we go.
I'm not massive on the old shot count normally, but he had 5 attempts, I think, the other day, and he played well for a bit of the game. I understand against Preston, he scored a hat trick against Maidstone in the cup the previous game. So he probably needs a bit of support at the moment because I think he'll know that there's a bit of scrutiny and there's a bit of criticism, and he could still have a massive part to play in the season.
He could. Right. Last segment then, Sam. We're going to round this lovely podcast out. The predictions, by the way, will be with you very soon, as quickly before the midweek round as we can get them. But we're going to finish off with the week that was. Right, Sam, this is our regular weekly quiz. You are 16-12 in front. Our questions, as ever, from the wonderful Fevs Football Analytics. You can follow him on Twitter at Fevs Football. I don't even know if there's any point asking you, Sam. I always say, do you want to ask or answer? And you always want to answer first, don't you? So I'll ask you anyway. Do you want to ask or be asked?
I want to be asked.
Right. Are you ready? Going underground, says Fev. Can you name the 3 championship teams with London Underground stations in their name? I'll reread that.
Goodness me.
There's only 24 teams to choose from. I'll give you that. Can you name the 3 championship teams with London Underground stations in their names? Would you describe yourself as a Londoner, Sam?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this should be in your wheelhouse, yes?
It should be. I did something on this the other day, actually. What was the question? I did a really good question on it. Oh, it's every vowel in the title. There's 2. Yeah, every vowel in the tube station title.
Oh God.
Right. You want what? You want the underground station in a?
Yeah, there's 3 of them. One's very direct, and 2 just kind of mention the name of the team in the underground station. But we need to get you guessing, Sam.
I have no idea. It's going to be really obvious when you say it. I'm just going to go for Watford because that was the first one.
Well, you're totally right. Yeah, literally, the station is called Watford. So there you go. You got one of the 3.
Stoke Newington.
Oh, that would have been quite good. He's not put it down, so I'm going to assume that's an overground.
Yeah, it would be an overground probably.
Station, yeah.
Give
me one more guess.
Sorry, yeah. Well, I'll take Queen's Park, surely.
Queen's Park. In fact, because you got that one right, I'll give you one more guess. So yeah, Queen's Park Rangers.
Queen's Park and I can't think of anything. So therefore, I will go for. There's not North End Road, is there? But I'll go Preston North End.
We'll say no to that. I will give you a clue, but you can't get it right. Sam, if you wanted to go and see the movie stars at a movie premiere, you would get off at.
I would get off at Leicester Square.
Leicester Square was the third
It's a
one.
tap-in. It's a tap-in, isn't it?
Okay. You got
tell you what, my guess was not bad, was it? Preston North End Road.
Yeah, you're irritatingly good at this, but I'm not praising you. Right, what's my question then, Sam?
Sorry, mate. Right, let me get you up. You are, I think, name the 3 scorers on the weekend who share a surname with an England captain at a major tournament. Love it. 3 scorers at the weekend who share
an England
a surname
football captain, or could it
with
be
an England football captain at a major tournament.
Kiefer
really
Moore.
Good.
Kiefer Moore or Bobby Moore?
Bobby Moore, yeah.
England captain at a major tournament. Shearer. Adams? Jay Adams?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 guesses. I'll give you 2 guesses for the win. And it's the hardest one, this. But the chap has been mentioned on this podcast.
Major tournaments. Christ. I need to think about the goal scorers. I'm just going to look at the fixture, Sam. Is that all right?
Yeah. I'll give you 2 guesses because it's tough.
Did you mentioned Mikey Johnston? I don't know. An England captain. Oh, am I going to be right? I'll go Mikey Johnston because you pulled a face.
Incorrect. Don't go for those, mate.
Suckered me in there. Was there ever a Fleming who was England captain? Sargent? Ugbo, no. Bay, no. Who else scored for Stoke? I can't remember. Patterson?
It was the old Chelsea boy, Baker. Lewis Baker.
Oh, is that likely? That sounds like a very English name. Bamford?
No,
Ellis.
I mean, this is a big hitter. Very famous with one club in particular.
Oh, mate. What decade?
More before our time, long before our time. I wouldn't even be able to hazard a guess because I'd probably be open to ridicule, but I'd go.
No, I'm going to tap out.
50s, 60s.
I'm going to tap out, Sam. Did I get 2, though? Did I get the draw?
I'm probably way off. You got the point, mate. The answer would be.
I'll take the point. I'm Mick McCarthy.
The answer would be Hadji Wright for.
Oh, Billy Wright.
Wright.
For God's sake. Great questions as ever. Go and give Fev a follow and let us know if you got 6 out of 6 on all of those. I'll be very, very impressed. It's always far more difficult, though, when you're under pressure. Sam, we are going to disappear right now and record the predictions. So look out for that. But last word, Sam, on the Championship Check-In podcast for round 35.
Oh, I can't think of anything witty to say, but can someone comment or let me know the last time the relegation zone looked like this? Because I had a little look the other day and I cannot for my life fathom when it was last this exciting.
Chaos at the bottom. Let us know in the comments. Thank you for all your support. If you listen on audio, give us a 5-star review. If you watched all this way on YouTube, stick the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be back with the predictions and double predictions this week. So you get 2 shows of that. And we'll see you for the podcast again next Monday. International break as well. We can really take stock then. Over and out.